The Voodoo 3 used to be affordable. After 3DFX went bankrupt, well, they became obsolete and you could pick one up for a low price. Of course, things have changed. The Voodoo 3 is now one of the best video cards for Windows 98 retro gaming. Now, I can't help you go back in time to buy a cheap Voodoo card, but how about this one? I predict that this one will be just as important as a Voodoo 3 in the next 10 years, and you can buy it for only $45. Because of the PCI interface, this unlocks a lot of options. We can stick it into a more modern Core 2 Duo machine, install a Sound Blaster Live, and look, we have a wonderful Windows 98 retro gaming PC. And who knows, in the future, maybe AIM2, maybe one of the early core platforms. With the PCI interface, we just have more options. Now, back in the day, the GeForce FX cards, well, they received mixed reviews, especially the DirectX 9 performance wasn't that great against the competition. But, well, in the retro PC gaming community, over time, the GeForce FX has become one of the highly recommended options for Windows 98 retro gaming. The reason is that the GeForce FX is still compatible with older, more compatible drivers. It also supports features like table fog and 8-bit paletted textures. Because it is a DirectX 9 GPU, we can also use wrappers like nGlide and run games like Unreal Gold with the Glide API. The VGA signal quality is excellent. The performance is decent. Most games will run perfectly fine at around 800 by 600 resolution. And we have options to make older games look nicer with anisotropic filtering and anti-aliasing. And as a bonus, there's one aspect to do with image quality where the GeForce FX does something better than a GeForce 6 or GeForce 7. So let's have a closer look. Here it is, the GeForce FX 5500 with PCI. We have some outputs here. VGA, the signal quality, I found that to be very good. We've got composite and SVD out. I have not tested this at the moment. I don't have any equipment to do that. And here we have DVI out. Under Windows, excellent image, of course, but it's a little bit flawed. No image during booting, post, BIOS, and DOS. So I'm not quite sure what's going on there. I'm hoping that the community will realize the potential of this video card and maybe someone can maybe fix the BIOS or something like that. The model number FX5500 with 256 megabytes of RAM, a 128-bit memory interface, which is important for performance, and PCI DVI. There's a little sticker here which gives us a clue about when this card was produced, and it seems to be made in 2010. The capacitors on this card, I will provide some close-up images, also of questionable quality, so maybe in time they also need some recapping. They're not surface mounted, so through hole, which should make the process just a little bit easier. There is in fact no FX5500 GPU. They all come with the FX5200 GPU, and my understanding is that with the FX5500 you are guaranteed to be getting the 128-bit memory interface. In terms of clock speeds, the GPU runs at 250 megahertz and the memory is clocked at only 133 megahertz with DDR memory, so a little bit low on the performance. But look, with the PCI interface we are sort of limited anyway, so it's not a huge deal, and performance is actually pretty decent, as we will see later in the video. The memory modules are from Infineon. I found a data sheet and it seems that depending on the memory timings, they should be able to run at 166 or even 200 megahertz. So there might be some room for overclocking if you're interested. I would love to learn the story behind these video cards. There are rumors that the GeForce FX 5200 GPUs, well, they were not very popular and maybe board partners ended up with a lot of excess stock, sold it on to someone else who then made some video cards, and here we are in 2025. You can still buy these on places such as AliExpress or eBay. The system is up and running, and we will continue after a quick word from today's video sponsor. It is PCBWay, your one-stop shop for printed circuit boards manufacturing and assembly. But they also do CNC machining and especially 3D printing. As part of the ITX Llama project, I needed an I/O shield, so I got mine printed through PCBWay. If you're interested and want to know more, check the video description for some links. The processor today is a Core 2 Duo E7600 running at 3.06 GHz. And the motherboard is from Gigabyte with the P31 chipset. I'm also using 256 megabytes of DDR2 memory, a 240 gigabyte SATA SSD, and a Sound Blaster Live. I ran the ATTO disk benchmark and the performance is outstanding. We're getting transfer rates over 200 megabytes per second. This is my first time using Windows 98 Quick Install in a project. I can highly recommend it. I will do a video on this project very soon. I'm using the built-in partition utility to create a 40 gigabyte partition, and I was up and running within minutes. With the Sound Blaster Live, I'm using Joseph's drivers. Make sure you go into the settings and increase the sample conversion quality. And then I'm also tuning the mixer. I found the levels to be a little bit low, and it can pick up noise from the analog inputs, so it's good practice to mute them. And now let's run some 3D Mark benchmarks. We're using NVIDIA 45.23 drivers. These are highly regarded in the retro PC community. We are using DirectX 8.2 because I wanted to also run 3D Mark 2001 SE. Here are the results. In 99 Max, we're getting just under 10,000 3D Marks. In 3D Mark 2000, almost 6,000 3D Marks. And here are the results for 3D Mark 2001 SE, just under 4,000 3D Marks. And now let's have a look at some time demo benchmarks. First up is GL-Quake. So NVIDIA cards, they are famous for excellent OpenGL performance, and we can see here excellent performance up to 1024 by 768. Quake 2 is a little bit more demanding, but again, if you stick with resolutions up to 1024 by 768, you will get excellent performance. And here we have the results for Quake 3. This game is a little bit more demanding. I would say stick to resolutions up to 800 by 600 for this one. Here we have Expendable. Now 640 by 480, it wouldn't work. The resolution was not available. I've seen this bug before. Maybe a different driver version can fix the issue, but doesn't matter. Expendable will run fine at, I would say, 800 by 600. And here we have Draken. I love showcasing this game. We get the results, and again, I would say stick with 800 by 600 to hit those silky smooth 60 frames per second. And now let's look at two options to make old games look nicer with anisotropic filtering and anti-aliasing. Earlier, I hinted at one aspect of image quality that the GeForce FX does so well that it took until the 8800 GTX to arrive to match that level of quality. And this aspect is anisotropic filtering. I found this text on Anantech's website, and he explains how NVIDIA is changing the way the distance is calculated as part of the anisotropic filtering. I have some footage here showing you the difference between AF on and off, but the real differentiation in image quality is when you rotate. So at angles, the GeForce FX was able to do a much nicer anisotropic filtering, whereas on other cards, for example, if you have a Radeon 9200, it's very angle dependent. So if you tilt to the side on such a video card, you will see the AF quality will look much worse. I ran the GL-Quake benchmarks again with anisotropic filtering set to 8x, and we can see here the performance impact. I think it's minimal. Like if we're looking at 800 by 600, we're going from around 146 to 139. Yeah, it's a reduction in performance, but it's not a big loss. So I would recommend you can leave that setting enabled in the driver to get nicer texture filtering in all games. And here we have an example of anti-aliasing. CRSM is the game. We can see it's doing a good job cleaning up those jaggies with geometric shapes, but it's unable to do the same thing with transparent textures. If we look at the palm trees, it can't remove the jaggies on those objects. If you want super sampling, a Voodoo 4 or a Voodoo 5 will give you the best image. A cheaper alternative is a Radeon card like an 8500 or a 9200 series. They still do the traditional brute force super sampling anti-aliasing. Here we have the impact of enabling 4x anti-aliasing in the driver. We can see it costs a lot of performance. So at 800 by 600, the performance drops from 146 to 41.6 FPS. So that's a huge impact of performance. Also, I had the 8x AF enabled as well, so keep that in mind. So this is a feature you want to play around with older games and when you're using low resolutions. Paletted textures are supported. Here we have driver running at 800 by 600, and we can see the flashing lights on the left side. I've got another comparison here with paletted texture support disabled, and you can see that the lights on the left side, they are static and are not animated. I also ran the Final Fantasy VIII configuration tool, and it also confirms that paletted textures are supported. Now keep in mind that paletted textures, it's not a big deal, only a handful of games support it, but it's a nice tick box feature to have. Much more important is the support for table fog. Here we have got Thief 2, this is the demo version. Right at the beginning of the game you can see fog being enabled in the distance. I've got a comparison screenshot here with the fog turned off. Star Wars Shadows of the Empire is another good test. Here we can see the beautiful fog being rendered, and I've got a comparison photo here that shows you what the game looks like without fog. Need for Speed Road Challenge also uses fog. This is the retail version with the latest patch, but I'm not sure if this is actually table fog because the driver option where you can toggle the table fog feature, it didn't really do anything. But anyway, it's a good demonstration of how fog can add a lot of atmosphere and flair to these old games. So it's a feature you definitely want to have, especially with ATI cards. They either don't display fog or it's a broken version of it. So maybe back in the day you had a Voodoo card, and if you then switch to a Radeon in your retro gaming PC, it is definitely something that will stand out. And now let's test a few games. Unfortunately, at this point, my system decided to, not work anymore. So I quickly switched out to an Athlon 64 system. I didn't reinstall Windows. Everything worked, just had to reinstall the chipset drivers. So let's check out a few games. Here we have Colin McRae Rally. There are some weird glitches happening in the menu, and it turns out this is related to the driver version. So here I upgraded the driver to version 56.64, and now the game looks beautiful. It's running at 800 by 600 resolution, and make sure that in the game options you max out all the graphics details. There are quite a few to play around with. Need for Speed Road Challenge also had driver issues. It wouldn't work with the 45.23 driver, but again, version 56.64, everything works fine. I believe we're running at 640 by 480. Also, this game has heaps of graphics settings, so make sure you check all of them out. And this again highlights the benefit of the GeForce FX. We have an option with the drivers. If there are some bugs, try out an older driver or different one. Maybe it fixes your issues. Another racing game, Screamer 4x4. This is with the OpenGL render. I usually choose OpenGL with NVIDIA cards, and it seems to be running perfectly fine. This is System Shock 2. Well, more driver issues. This one doesn't like the 56.64 driver. So what happens here is after the loading screen, you just hear a single ding sound and then the game crashes. So I went back to the 45.23 driver, and now everything works. Here we have Expendable. Now, this game has some issues. It wouldn't launch the benchmarks. So I use an alternative version from the Zoom gaming platform. They patched the release with fast processors in mind. It's something to do with that. And looks stunning, very colorful, lots of transparency effects and particle effects and lots of glowing stuff going on. So it's a fun game. The controls are a bit of a letdown, however. I upgraded DirectX to version 9 because I wanted to test nGlide. We're using the version 1.5 of nGlide. Here we have Unreal Gold, and yeah, we're getting the 3DFX animation in the beginning, and yeah, the game runs perfectly fine. This is at 640 by 480. Looks great and is definitely a game I want to play more. I gave it a crack a few years back, but I don't know, something happened. Maybe I just got sidetracked with other projects. It's a game I've never finished. One of you asked me to check out Descent 3. Well, here it is. We're running at 800 by 600 with the OpenGL render option, and it looks stunning. This is really one polished looking game. I should definitely check it out in future videos. Lots of shiny effects and lots of colorful graphics going on. I like how the windshield has some reflection and everything, so it's a really slick game. Also the audio with EAX support, it sounds absolutely lovely. And now we are at the part of the video that I really enjoy, where I get to sit down and actually play some games, because this is what this hobby is all about. We are back playing Drakan Order of the Flame. I configured it at 640 by 480, 32 bits. All details are maxed out, and there are quite a few extra details inside the game options, so make sure you have a look there. We've got 4x anti-aliasing and 8x anisotropic filtering. Later on in the game, I removed the anti-aliasing. There's a little technical aspect. When you use anti-aliasing, some of the text looks a bit off. There is an option to adjust the texel origin or something, but it doesn't really fix the issue. And apparently quite a few games are affected by this. Yeah, of course, the performance is also a little bit impacted with anti-aliasing, but the game runs fine. Well, I didn't make a copy of my last progress. I seem to have forgotten that step, so the previous save game is lost. Well, played it again. To recap, we unlocked the dragon and then came across a house. There's a guy inside. It's a side quest. We have to clean out a mine, get rid of spiders, and then as a reward we get the location to a sword. It's called the Sword of Flame. After that, lots of flying around. I'm taking out all the dragons and catapults and monsters, so lots of strafing. And then I found another mine. It's called the Troll Mine, but the game tells me we need to find a key, and it turns out close by is an entrance into some mountains, and this is where you get the key. I found this area quite hard. Lots of strong enemies with shields, lots of quick saving and quick loading. I do die a lot, but yeah, I persevere. We get the key, and then we get access to the Troll Mine. Again, the Troll Mine is a little bit tricky in terms of surviving, and then I get stuck, so I watched the playthrough. There's an area in the game where I need to get to the other side, and yeah, you need to backtrack and get the dragon inside of that level, and then you can fly to that other ledge. So that was a bit interesting. So it turns out that some puzzle aspects in this game revolve around you getting the dragon to the next area to make it a little bit easier. We're off to another mine. I think it's called the Grimstone Mine, with a secret entrance near a waterfall. And yeah, I keep progressing. There's some sort of boss. I keep dying, and at this point I'm realizing, well, I'm actually dying a lot. I'm still enjoying the game, but it's getting a little bit hard. So yeah, I found a cheat. It's quite easy. You hold down the shift key when launching the game, then you tick a box for developer mode, and then you load your save game while holding control, and you type in "I am God," and off you go. You are invincible. I keep progressing. There's a little bit of a boss fight against another dragon, and then we are flying through another portal, out with the freezing cold and into a tropical climate. And yeah, this time I've saved the progress right away. The backup is ready to wait for the next project. All in all, I really like Draken. It's a shame we can't purchase this game digitally, so look on secondhand places or find a copy online. So far, I'm really enjoying it. But what do you think about Draken? Share your thoughts down below. So guys, you can probably tell I love this video card, the PCI version of the NVIDIA GeForce FX 5500. So many positive aspects. We can use older, more compatible drivers. We can use more modern drivers in case there's a compatibility issue. It just gives us more options. Table fog support, paletted texture support. With DirectX 9, we can use nGlide and get those glide games going. We have a really nice VGA signal out quality, so there's a lot to like. But to me, the real highlight is because this is PCI, we can drop this in more modern machines like a Core 2 Duo, maybe socket AM2, who knows. So I think the future is bright for this one, and I'm really interested and excited to learn what happens in the next 10 years, if this really will become a secret weapon to keep retro prices low, because a Core 2 machine you can pick up for next to nothing these days, and then slot in one of these with a Sound Blaster Live and you're good to go. We can make old games look nicer with anisotropic filtering and anti-aliasing, and the performance across the board is decent. It's not record-breaking. This is not a video card to buy if you want to build a high-end Windows 98 retro gaming PC, but most games will work just fine. And more recently, I start to appreciate playing games at lower resolutions like 640 by 480 or 800 by 600. The text is easy to read, and sometimes if you're running games at very high resolutions, it just looks a little bit too sharp for the age of those games. Not everything is perfect. The DVI output stands out. It doesn't work during post in the BIOS and in MS-DOS, so you're flying blind. I hope this is something the community can figure out. Maybe it's some BIOS modification that can fix this issue. The build quality is also a little bit questionable. Those capacitors, they're now over 10 years old and they don't look really high-end. And at least on my card, the fan has a rattling sound. So yeah, but it's nothing the community can't fix or repair. And finally, the price for $45, you can't go wrong. I already purchased a few, not just recently, but many years ago, because I can really see that this video card will become a very important piece of retro PC history and allowing us to use more modern machines to play Windows 98. And now I want to hear from you. What is your take on this video card? Do you believe that because of PCI, this will become important? Or would you rather pay more and get a nice system with AGP? Share your thoughts down below. Also want to hear your feedback on Draken. What do you think about this game? And yeah, that's it. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you soon with another one.